I briefly mentioned pretty much everybody here, nobody else has trickled in. I'm really chill and low-key when it comes to teaching. I work much better if you guys ask questions and I can answer those. I do have a keynote, so I guess we'll start there. You guys are all here. We're learning how to take a killer headshot, specifically with 2 lights. I briefly mentioned over here, what I'm teaching today is applicable to pretty much every other type of photography. This lighting, this 2-light set can be used for product photography. It can be used with natural lighting. So this really is like the basis of all lighting out there that you're gonna see in movies, TV shows, ads, photography, all of that. So once you start seeing this, you'll start picking up on it when you watch movies and stuff like that, and then you'll never unsee it, and it's great. And then you'll hate TV shows and movies with bad lighting. And then you'll complain about it and your wife will tell you to shut up. So I'm not really gonna talk about me too much because you guys don't care about me. I'm here to teach you guys. I've been in photography for a while. I shoot lots of stuff and that's all you need to know. So I'm gonna be going over like 3 things today. The biggest one is gonna be lighting. Within lighting, I'm gonna be talking about short versus broad lighting, adding a second light, and TTL metering, if you guys know what that means. If not, that's why you're here. I will be going over a little bit of posing and also just expression and interacting with the people in front of your camera. So is there anything that's not up there that you guys want to be or were expecting to be up there? Cool. Good talk. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to talk about is this. So what's that?
A circle and a square.
It's a circle. It's pretty boring, okay? What, if I were drawing, what would I need to add to this circle to turn it into a sphere? Shading, okay? Shading is what? Highlights and shadows, right? Highlights and shadows are what create depth and dimension. And that's all we're trying to do in photography with lighting, whether it be natural or flash, is create highlights and shadows. Who here has ever gone camping and used a headlamp before? Who's ever tripped while using a headlamp? Pretty much all of you, right? Why do you think that is? No, actually. So what's going on is that headlamp is coming from the exact same direction as your eyeballs. So you can't see any of the shadows that are being created by that light source. And you have no way to gauge dimension. You don't know if that rock is 2 inches or 2 feet tall. And so you trip, okay? If you take that headlamp off of your head from right here and you move it over here, so now it's shining that way, guess what you can see? All the shadows being created. You now have a sense of depth and dimension. So that's all we're trying to do with flash. You don't want your light coming from the same direction as your camera, or it will be called what we refer to as flat lighting, okay? And flat lighting is not flattering, is it? Generally, right? So by shading it, that same circle now becomes a 3-dimensional sphere, okay? So what's that? I didn't even notice that Chewbacca thing in her lap. Super awkward. This was not ChatGPT, by the way. This is a real painting. Does anybody know, any guesses what year this painting's from?
Renaissance?
Sure, 1400s, okay? Notice anything about their face? Ah, you got it. It's pretty flat. That's kind of a bad painting, actually. It's a famous painting. It's in a museum, but it's super flat, bland, boring. It's poo-poo, okay? So around 1600, this dude comes around and he changes how portraits are painted, okay? Everything was painted like that last photo, fully illuminated, flat, bland, boring, okay? What's this guy's name? Rembrandt, okay? Who's heard the term Rembrandt lighting? Okay. Painter, 1600s, named Rembrandt. He came up with this lighting in portraits and started painting all of his portraits with this side lighting or Rembrandt lighting, and that's where we get the term Rembrandt lighting. And it is mostly known for, let's see if I can do this. I need a laser pointer one of these days. you have this shadow or this triangle of light on a cheek, okay? That's really the dead giveaway of Rembrandt lighting. Now, Olivia, I'm gonna have you come sit down really quick. Nope. Get my camera connected. Perfect. Let me get this. Okay, that's a decent exposure, I guess. It's a fairly flat photo of Olivia, right? She's our model. So, to create that Rembrandt lighting, I'm going to place the light here. Don't worry, I will talk through some things in just a second. Okay, turn your head just a little bit to that way. There we go, right there. Okay, now we have Rembrandt lighting, right? It's not very dramatic or obvious, so what I'm gonna do, pull this back. Now, what angle is my light coming from? Mm-hmm. There we go. About 45 degrees to the side and 45 degrees up, okay? If you just remember those two, 45 and 45, you'll have good lighting pretty much always, okay? Now, I tend to lean a little bit softer, and I generally go a 30-degree angle to the side and 30 degrees up, either one of those points, okay? Now, here's a really important thing to remember. This angle is based off of their face and not their body, okay? So I want you to assume that whoever you're photographing has plungers stuck to their cheek, okay? And there's those little plunger sticks are pointing out from their cheeks at that angle. That's where your light should be, wherever they look, okay? And people often get tripped up by that. Now, let's go here. So, Rembrandt lighting. With it, Rembrandt lighting has a couple of different names as well. Does anybody know any of the other terms or names of Rembrandt lighting? The other ones you'll hear will be ratio lighting, because there's a ratio on their face, light, dark. The other is loop lighting, okay? If you look at her nose is creating a shadow that's referred to as the nose loop, okay? And some people will refer to this as loop lighting. Or you'll hear short or broad lighting, okay? And those two are really important, okay? Now, before we get into that, I hadn't planned on talking about this, but I'm going to, because I think it's important. Would you say this is hard or soft lighting?
Hard.
What makes it hard?
I think contrast, that being so much brighter than the other contrast.
No, actually, did you hear what he said? No diffusion, okay? I'm going to tell you right now, diffusion does not mean soft in any way, shape, or form, okay? Have you ever bought one of those little diffusers on your on-camera flash? Guess what? That doesn't make your light any softer at all, okay? I'll explain why in just a second.
No wrapping of the light? Well, there is some.
You're on the right track. So when we say hard lighting, we're really talking about the quality of the shadow and the transition from the light area to the dark area. And if it's very sudden in a defined line, that's hard lighting, okay? There's a pretty defined shadow that her nose is casting, and that's what creates hard, that's what we mean when we say hard lighting, right? So if you go out and outside the sun is shining at 4 o'clock, that's a very hard light, right? Very defined shadows. That's what we would classify as a hard light, okay? Soft light is a really soft transition from the highlights to the darkest areas. There's no defined shadow, okay? So, generally speaking, when we're doing portraits, we like soft lighting. Product photography, all that stuff. Soft lighting is usually what we want. What makes a light soft? Now we know it's not diffusion. The size of the light source, okay? What do you mean by that?
Like, I guess, how scattered the light is by the time it hits the subject.
You're on the right track. I'm going to actually unhide a slide, and we're going to go back to the slideshow for a second. Okay. So we all know the sun, right? Is the sun large or small?
Small in the way that we use it.
Yes and yes, okay? The sun is really big, okay? The sun, you can fit 1.3 million Earths inside the sun. The sun is very large, right? Now, there's a really important phrase that makes yours true, okay? The sun in relation to us is very small, okay? That in relation to you part is really, really, really important. If you go outside on a sunny day, you can hold up your hand and block the sun with your thumb. So your thumb is larger than the sun is in relation to you, okay? Tracking? Everybody tracking? Okay. So the distance of your light source in relation to the subject relates to how soft it is, okay? If I move my light source closer to Olivia, is it going to be softer or harder? So glad you said that, because that's what everybody says. No. My light source is going to get a lot softer as it moves closer to your subject. And that's really opposite of what everybody would assume, right? It's going to get brighter because it's getting closer to her, but it's going to get a lot softer. So if you look at this picture up here on this keynote, this is your softbox, that's your subject, and those beams of light are creating what I would call an area of complete shadow, okay? So that's a pretty large area of complete shadow, very defined shadows, right? Watch what happens when that light source moves closer. That light can wrap around that subject more and fill in some of those shadows, okay? So, if we go back to this photo I had of Olivia. Okay, we've got that. Now, I'm going to move my light much closer. What happened, though? It's way too high now, so I need to lower it, right? Because I want to go for that 30-degree and 30-degree angle. And I need to change the power of it because I got much closer. Turn your head that way just slightly, not that much. See how much softer that is than that?
That's wacky.
Yeah, it's counterintuitive, right? And so that's why photographers invest so much money in big soft boxes, because the bigger the soft box, the further away we can have it and still maintain that same level of softness, right? But most of the time, if you ever see me shooting, which is going to happen all the time, I'm sure, I have this softbox as close as I can possibly have it to the point where it's just out of frame. Because I want the biggest, softest, most beautiful light I can have, okay? So that's why I have my light source so dang close. Now, you'll notice another phenomenon that happened. Look at the background. What causes that? No, that's a good guess, though. Okay, has to do with a concept called drop-off. The more powerful your light is, the longer it travels. The lower the power is, the less it travels, okay? When my light was back there, I had to have it cranked up so that it hit her, right? Because I had it way more powerful, it traveled a lot longer. It hit my background and lit up the background. As I moved my light source closer to her, I had to decrease the power, which means my drop-off also shortened, and my light wasn't powerful enough to hit the background. Okay? Everybody tracking? So that's also another good way. If you want to black out that background, get a darker background, if you can get the power of your light down, it won't travel as far. Okay? Now, just to highlight this next concept, I'm going to move my light back just a little bit. So within Rembrandt lighting, we have two different subtypes of Rembrandt lighting. One is called short lighting, one is called broad lighting. Okay? If I was at home and my wife walked in and I said, "Hey babe, you look super broad today," is that a good thing? No, if you didn't say no, you're probably not married. That is not a good thing. My wife's not going to be happy with me, okay? Broad lighting is generally not very attractive. It makes somebody look more broad, okay? Now, the funny thing is broad lighting, short lighting is a game of inches, okay? And it has everything to do with where you're shooting and where your camera is, okay? So, I'm going to turn on my modeling light so you can see. My light is on this side of Olivia, right? So this is her light side, this is her dark side, right? If I am standing here and I shoot a laser out of my camera, turn your head this way, just a little bit. What side of her face is my camera hitting?
The light side?
The light side, okay? If I shoot into the light side of Olivia's face, that is going to be broad lighting. Okay, now, turn your nose slightly this way, a little bit more, a little bit more. Okay, now if I shoot a laser out of my camera, what side of her face am I shooting into?
Dark side.
The shadow side. Shooting into the shadow side of her creates what's called short lighting, okay? And Olivia, you can look at these because nobody's a harsher critic than yourself. That photo versus that photo.
That one.
What? The first one? Do you don't like your nose in this one?
Something about it.
You don't like it? You don't like the big nose?
I'm very aware of it.
Okay. When you shoot broad lighting, it makes their nose appear much larger and their face appear much larger and broader. Okay. Generally, you'll see this when somebody's photographing a male and they're trying to make them look more menacing. Okay, is when you'll see this broad lighting. The short lighting, other way, is much more slimming and attractive. Okay? The human brain is hardwired that if something is in shadow, we give it less importance. By shooting into the shadow side of her face and seeing the shadows of her nose, we give it less importance. Whereas here, we're shooting onto that broad side of her nose where it's getting blasted with that light, and that's all we see. Okay, other way. Now you'll notice it had nothing to do with me moving, because I don't want to shoot onto my background crooked. With a cyc wall, it doesn't matter. It's going to be whatever in the background. But if I'm shooting onto like a brick or something like that, I want to be shooting straight onto that wall. So if you ever watch me shoot, once again, it's going to happen all the time. I'm constantly, and you'll see it today, like the whole time, I'm going to be like, turn your head that way just a little bit, turn your head that way just a little bit. Because people are naturally going to drift back to like being facing straight onto you because that's normal. Nobody like turns away to somebody when they're talking. So they'll slowly drift back and you just constantly have to remind them, turn your head that way a little bit, turn your head that way a little bit. Okay. Let's see if I want to talk about this or not. Okay, I do. So, Tenzin, right? Tenzin asked a good question before we started. Why have two lights? Do you need two lights? No, the pictures I just took of Olivia were pretty good, right? I specifically had you wear dark, and she has really dark hair. So you remember those pictures, she's kind of blending into that background, right, with that shadow side of her face. And this is where your secondary light is going to come in handy. It's going to create even more depth and dimension by highlighting that shadow side and separating them from their background. And the secondary lighting is what most people refer to as a kicker or a rim light, okay? The photography world is full of terms and everybody uses them however they want. So sometimes people will be like, well, no, a kicker is if it's hitting the background. And some people will say, no, a rim light is their whole edge. It's whatever you guys want it to be, okay? Just tell them that I told you this is what it is and I'm right. But the nice thing with this is it's really easy to know where to put your kicker or your rim light because it's pretty much just polar opposite of where your key light is or your main light source, okay? So I've got this strip and I'm just gonna come directly opposite. Put that right there, okay? Really quick, just making sure we're all on the same page. Anything that is this is a modifier, it goes on the end of your flash. Anything that has a front diffusion panel on it like this is going to be a softbox, okay? That's just a general term, softbox. If it's long and rectangular, we call them strip boxes because it's a strip. This is a softbox, that's a softbox. That's just a strip softbox, okay? Now, you'll notice I have this thing on here, right here. Let's turn this on. Does anybody know what this is called? Grid, okay? Grid or an egg crate is the other terminology. What's it used for? Yeah, he said light going less direction. I think what you mean is correct. So the best way to say is it prevents spill off, okay? So if you remember, just a minute ago, we talked about the size of your light source. We really care about the size of our light source. What a grid allows you to do is maintain the same size of your light source, the same softness, but just direct it a little bit better, prevent it from going everywhere, okay? Right now, how many of you can see the white part of this fabric on this light? Barely, let me move it this way. You can all see it, right? Which means this light is hitting all of you. Now, I'm gonna just take just the top portion off, okay? Now, if I turn it this way, who can see this part of the light? All of you still can. Who can see any of the white down here? What about now? No? But you can still see this part, right? So without a grid, this light would hit you and spill off onto you. With the grid, though, it's not gonna hit you, okay? So this is especially important if you are trying to control the background and what's going on in the background. If I want a dark background and I don't have a grid on, there goes my dark background because my light's gonna be thrown everywhere. So this grid allows me to just kind of direct a little bit while still maintaining the same size of light source and maintaining the same level of softness. And you'll see this kicker or rim light is going to highlight this shoulder over here. And if their hair is pulled back, or if it's a dude, their jawline, their cheek. If they're not, it's just gonna kiss her hair and help separate her from the background. And before I start shooting with this, you probably all saw this photo on Instagram when you signed up for it, right? Maybe not. This was the behind the scenes of this. I shot this in this guy's living room. He wanted a blue background, so this light on the bottom is an Aperture 300C or Amaran 300C to get some color. But I shot this with 2 speed lights, 2 small soft boxes in his living room. Okay. So I have a key light, I have a kicker light, which is highlighting him here and giving you more of that cinematic look. Okay, that's kind of what that secondary light's gonna do, is give you a little bit more of that cinematic, high-end, polished look. You got a second light, you can start charging a lot more money. Now, who's heard the term TTL metering? Who knows what it means?
Isn't it like the amount of gray?
Nope. That's metering, but what does TTL mean? Nobody knows. Goodness. It stands for through the lens. Can you still see the keynote, Tenzin? I just want to make sure that softbox wasn't in the way. So TTL metering stands for through the lens, okay? If I had to ask you, hey, what power should this flash be at to give me good exposure? Do you know what it should be at? Guess what? Neither do I. I can take a wild guess. It's probably not going to be right. What TTL metering does, though, is it uses your camera's built-in light meter to tell the flash how powerful to be to properly expose your photograph, okay? So, what was your name again? Jennifer. Jennifer asked a good question before we started. How do you know what camera settings to pick if you're using a flash? And I told her there's really two ways to use a flash. One is to kill all the existing light. And that way I know the only light is coming from my flash. The other is to blend it. Today we're just killing it, right? So I'm going to go back to the camera. Okay, I'm going to turn off the modeling lights really quick too. So the first step in getting a proper exposure if you're using the flash is I turn off my transmitter and I'm going to take a photograph and I want it to be black, okay? Just like that. Okay, and that lets me know when I turn on my flashes, the only light I'm seeing in my photograph are coming from my flashes. None of this stuff. I'm not getting any pollution from this light. I am 100% in control of my lighting, okay? Now, I'm going to turn on my main light, my key light. It's already on, actually. And I'm going to turn on TTL metering. How many of you guys own flashes? What brands? Newer? Flashpoint. Which is Godox?
Nothing that I use yet.
Anything? Okay, fantastic. Most lights nowadays have TTL metering in them. It's actually your transmitter that's going to have the TTL metering because that's what's talking to your camera, not the flash. But I want you to watch this flash really quick if I just take a photo doing TTL metering. Did anybody you guys notice? Watch the flash, not the picture. I don't know if you can see it. It's a really fast flash. It's actually flashing twice every picture I take. Did you guys notice it? Now look for that first and second flash. You seen it a little bit? Okay. So the first flash fires at a predetermined set, and it goes out, and my camera's metering when that flash hits. It then goes, hey, you either need to increase or decrease your brightness based off of what we just metered. Tells the flash to adjust its power, and then adjusts its power and fires. Right? Pretty nifty, right? The problem with TTL metering is a lot of people will just go, oh, it's going to automatically figure out my flash power. Fantastic, let's do it. The problem with this is it's metering the entire frame, okay? If I'm photographing Olivia, who do I care about? Subject. I care about Olivia, not the entire frame, okay? If I step back and do a full body of Olivia, how much of her do I care about lighting versus what's in the frame? Very little, right? Okay. The other problem is if I go from doing a close-up with TTL metering to doing a full body to doing a 3/4, guess what's going to happen to my flash power every single picture? It's going to change, okay? If you guys have ever done like a step and repeat or a lot of photo shoots, nothing sucks more than your exposure changing every single photo and having to balance that. It's a pain in the butt, okay? Most people use TTL metering wrong. They just put it on TTL and go, great, it's going to be auto. Let's fire and forget, okay? Now, the right way to TTL meter, let me make sure this is turned off. Great. So, on the new ProPhoto triggers, the Connect Pros, it's called auto mode. ProPhoto actually invented TTL metering, and then everybody else started doing it, and ProPhoto's like, oh no, we can't be the same as everybody, we have to change it. So they changed it to auto, but it's still the same thing, okay? Westcott does this, Godox does this, Flashpoint does this, I think Newer does it. They all have TTL metering, okay? So I've turned on TTL metering on my trigger, and what part of Olivia do I care about? Her face, okay? So I'm gonna go, and if you remember the slide that was up, I'm gonna go meter for just her face, okay? So I'm gonna come in this close and take a photograph of just her face, because that's what I want it to meter okay? Is that perfect? No, not even close. But it's like 99% of the way there, actually, okay? So once I've done that first TTL metering, I'm gonna turn off TTL on my transmitter. My flash is gonna remember what power it got set to by the TTL metering, and I can fine tune it from there, right? So with Pro Photo flashes and Westcott, everything is a 1 to 10. On Godox, Flashpoint, newer, it's a fraction. 1/1 is full power, half, fourth. It metered at 9.3. Part of that is probably because my flash wasn't pointed at her. So I'm actually gonna get this set where I would have it if I was actually taking a photograph. I'm gonna get a little bit closer because I want that soft light. I'm gonna make it a little bit taller. I'm gonna come in, turn on auto, take that photograph. I'm gonna hit auto again. That time it metered at 8.6, okay? I'm gonna leave that be for just a second. I'm actually gonna turn that flash off. I'm gonna turn on my kicker, which this is flash B. I'm gonna do the same thing for this light, but I'm gonna meter right here where it's actually hitting. Okay, I'm gonna turn off my auto again. This flash metered at 10. She has black hair and a black t-shirt on. That's probably why it metered at a 10. So I'm actually gonna drop this to 8, which is 2 stops of light. I'm gonna turn my main light on. It's gonna remember its setting, which was 8.6. And if you remember, that was a little bit too bright. So I'm probably gonna bring it down to an 8. Just fine tune it from there. And voila. I'm going to turn off that kicker light so you can kind of see what it looks like without it. And who feels like my key light is still too bright? If you said yes, you're right. If you said no, you're a suck up. There we go. That's a lot better. Okay. Now I'm going to turn on my kicker. And you can see why I decided to bring a second light. That looks pretty dang good. Most people saw that like, that's a pretty good headshot. But that's a $100 headshot. That's a $400 headshot. I can't tell if you guys are processing or just thinking this guy's an idiot. No secondary light? Second light.
Yeah, I can see the shine from the light coming on this side.
Yeah. Any questions, comments, applause? Just kidding. Don't do that. I get weird with that. Okay. Does everybody understand how TTL metering works, though?
Well, I think I do now. I'm sure when I start doing it, I'll be like, wait, what?
Yeah, so let me show you the problem with, if I throw on my auto metering, will you stand up for me, Olivia? We're gonna move that chair because I'm gonna get into some posing stuff. So Olivia has pretty fair skin, I would say. I'm shooting on a white background, but she's wearing black, so it's kind of gonna mess up my metering, I would guess. So ignore that my light's in the background. Turn your head that way just a little bit. That's with my auto metering, or my TTL metering turned on. And the problem is it's metering this entire frame. The background is gonna be dark because my flash is so far away. She's wearing a dark shirt. And so it's trying to meter that and give my flash a proper exposure because it's metering everything. I don't wanna meter everything. I just wanna meter her face. And so that's why coming in and shooting this is gonna give you a much more accurate metering. Because that's all you want to be metering is their skin, okay? You do this with products, people, whatever, okay? Now, we're gonna come back to my keynote for a second. How's everybody doing? Good?
If you change your metering zone in the camera, is the TTL still taking
Nope.
an average?
It will use the metering mode in your camera. So if you go to spot metering, you could do that as well. He asked if you change the metering mode in your camera, would it apply to the TTL metering, or is it just going to do everything still? Okay, posing. Who feels super confident in their posing capabilities? Yeah, nobody does. Oh, you do? Okay. You want to come teach this part? What do you guys struggle with posing? Everything? I would say probably the number one thing people struggle with posing is making it look natural. Yeah. I'm going to go off on a tangent because I think this is good for you guys to learn. Posing a headshot is vastly different than just posing in general. If I'm posing, if I'm trying to pose somebody in general, you're doing it wrong. Okay? I'm going to tell you right now. When I photograph high school seniors, families, individuals, I very rarely go, oh, I'm going to go pose 13, do this. Okay? It doesn't work like that. Everybody is different. Everybody has different personalities, and we all feel comfortable doing different things. If you look at everybody in this room, everybody's doing a pose that's actually fairly attractive because we're naturally doing this, okay? And everybody just moved. They're like, oh, I'm not. I mean, look good, okay? But I don't like to pose because people don't do that. It's the same thing if you tell somebody, I want you to focus on blinking. Right? It's weird. It should be subconscious, and we should leave something that's subconscious to the subconscious. So if I'm ever posing somebody, I generally tell them to go act something out, or I keep an eye on them in between poses, and I go, hey, what you were just doing right there, do that over here where the lighting's better. But if I'm doing a senior, I might be like, hey, I want you to go sit on the steps and pretend like you're just waiting for your friends to get out of class. And I just let them do that, okay? And within posing, I usually ask myself 3 questions. Would they've done that thing without me asking them to? Does it match their personality? And is it flattering? If I get a no on anything, I need to fix it, okay? I don't know you super well, but you don't seem super girly.
Okay.
Are you super girly?
I can be.
You can be, but you're generally not like pink princesses and fluff and all that, right? You're not a dancer girl. Were you? Nailing it. Okay, we're going to pretend you're not.
Not be.
Great, okay? But if I have somebody who's maybe shy, or I'm not going to have them be like, stand like that. It doesn't match their personality, and they're not going to feel comfortable doing it, right? So just match their personality. Does it look flattering? You're not stupid. If something doesn't look good, don't take the photograph of it, okay? So many times photographers feel like they can't take a photograph because they don't want to look dumb in front of the customer. I have no problem telling a customer, like, that doesn't look good, we're changing it. That doesn't make you look dumb, that makes you look like you care and you can identify a bad picture. I've trained a lot of people and they're like, I didn't want to change it because I didn't want to look stupid. I've gotten 30 people pose for an extended family picture and I step back and I'm like, this looks really bad. Okay, we're gonna change the pose. Okay, I don't take the photograph because chances are they're gonna ask for that photograph and then it's just not good, okay? So, posing can be hard, and I get that. With headshots, it's actually pretty easy, and I will show you. Who here has ever built anything? Or if you were gonna build a skyscraper, what's the first thing you need to build? Foundation, okay? Even though we're doing a headshot, I need to start the pose from the ground up. Olivia, will you scoot out here so everybody can see? I'm gonna move my light back. Okay. This is all gonna relate to my light side versus my dark side. Short lighting is still playing into effect. This is her light side, yeah? Okay. With women, we generally want to face them away from the light source. Can anybody guess why?
We're not shooting broad light.
To make them less broad. Once again, if my wife came home and said, you look super broad today, I'm sleeping on the couch. Not a good thing, okay? So, once again, human beings are hardwired. Shadows are less important, they're smaller, it makes people look smaller. That's why if you're a woman, you know what's the most thinning color? black. If you want to look skinnier, you wear black. Okay, we give less importance to it. That's why. Okay, so I'm going to have Olivia face me. When I'm posing, my favorite technique to use is mirroring. It makes people feel comfortable to do the same pose because you're doing it. They don't feel as weird, and it's easier for them to understand. So I generally face in front of them and have them mirror me, right? So I actually want you to face towards me, Olivia, really quick. So stay right there. Okay, so the pose is going to start with her feet and legs, okay? Will you bend your back knee? Is this good or bad? A little bit. This is bad, okay? And there's a few reasons why. One, her thighs. If we're doing a full body, her thighs are moving away from each other. Subconsciously, they're growing larger. Her thighs now look bigger. It's not good. Do you want your thighs to look big? No thanks. Okay. Now, in the world of photography, it doesn't matter what millimeter you're shooting at. Whatever's closest to the camera is going to appear larger, no matter what, okay? With that back knee bent, her hips moved closer to the camera. Now her hips look larger. 2 for 2, killing it, okay? She's also leaning away from the camera. I don't ever want to shoot up somebody's nose, so I'm going to have her put her chin down. I'm just going to do this. Who likes this part of their body? Nobody, right? That's why I have a beard, okay? 3 for 3, bad, okay? Bend the knee closest to the camera now. What just changed? Her thighs are creating a V. They're coming together. We subconsciously go, they're thinning. They're getting smaller, okay? Her hips moved away from the camera, so her hips are going to be smaller, and she can lean towards the camera and raise her chin. It's going to tighten all that skin around her neck and give her a more defined jawline. 3 for 3, better, okay? So I always have them bend the knee that's closest to the camera for those things. So if my light was, you can actually scoot back a little bit. I want you to stand like right here. I want to make sure I'm not blocking anybody. Turn this way just a little bit. You don't want to go too far. Usually like 30 to 45 degrees is good. So bend this knee. Perfect. Push your hips this way just a little bit. Okay. Now, with women, this is called an S curve in the posing. Okay. Her shoulders are away from the camera. I want to shoot the short side of her face. So I'm going to bring her head this way. Turn your head that way. So I'm shooting into the S, and I want you to slightly tilt your head towards that. Okay. She's a backwards S right now, but her body's creating an S curve, or so they say. I have a hard time seeing this, okay? So there, I'm going to move my kicker light over. One thing to note, one common mistake I see with this kicker light is if it comes too far around and it hits the tip of their nose, that's bad. We don't want any Rudolphs, okay? Let's get that up on the screen, eh? This is a wee bit bright. Okay, now the opposite of an S curve is going to be called a C curve, okay? And this is generally for men because unlike women, men want what? Broad shoulders. We want to look like a Dorito, okay? We want those big, nice, broad shoulders. So I want you to turn towards my light source. Same thing, bend that knee. Okay, so first things first, her shoulders are turned towards the camera. They're going to get blasted with light. Her shoulders are going to appear much larger and broader, okay? We go back to the first pose really quick. One thing I forgot to mention. So shoulders away from the light, nose back towards the light, head tilted towards that front shoulder. Super exaggerate that head tilt. Flirty, right? Hey, how you doing? Hey, girl. Right? Very flirty with that head tilt towards the back shoulder. Turn in towards my light now. Perfect. Turn your head this way just a little bit. There. And then tilt your head slightly towards that back shoulder. It's very masculine, right? Very like imposing, like, hey, what are you doing? Right? It's a very masculine pose. This projector's hard to see it with the dynamic range, but her shoulders are going to appear much larger and broader. Okay? So with the pose, It's always the same. So like if you're doing like a corporate headshot session and you have 30 people lined up, girl, perfect. Stand right there, face towards me. Bend this knee, perfect. Keep your shoulders there and turn just your head that way. Beautiful. Blammo. With their shoulders face away from the camera, when they turn their head back, instinctually they're gonna tilt it towards that front shoulder. I don't really need to tell them to do that. Look, a dude just came. Great, stand right there facing me. Bam. Okay. Everybody tracking? Getting it? Now, I don't know what I did. I hate technology. Look, I have examples. Let's go here, let's go here. Okay, these are some headshots I did for KeyBank a while ago. I didn't have a second light or else I could have charged way more money. This was actually just on the balcony outside their front doors of the KeyBank Tower downtown. Okay, but key light, I have her turned away from the key light and then turned her nose back towards that short lighting. Whereas the dudes, I had their shoulders towards that main light. Okay, it looks better on my computer screen. Just saying. I like her. She's a suck up. Is everybody getting it so far? I want to make sure we're not leaving anybody in the dust. You guys, I can't tell if you guys are all thinking very deeply or if you're wanting to leave.
I can see the S and the C a lot clearer now.
Yeah. Okay. Now, is that good? This is not. It's not very good. I mean, the lighting's good. What's missing? Two things. One, I made him look fat. So that's not good. What else is missing? No. He kind of wanted more of that soft light. He didn't want it as dramatic. Come on. He's got his chin back, sure. Does he look like a happy dude, or does he look like a dude about to get a prostate exam? I mean, he's about that age. This was like the first photograph I took of this guy. I had like 15 minutes with him. And that was the smile he gave me. And I took the picture and was like, wow, that's a really bad picture. But he was pretty closed off and took me a minute. So after this photo, I was like, all right, I'm not going to take it. I'm going to change my set really quick and just talk to this guy for a minute and get to know him. Asked him lots of questions. Oh, is that your family on the wall? I went to his house and did this. Talked about his family, and there are some pictures from a trip that they just taken in Italy, and asked about that, and just kind of, what do you do for work? What are you using these headshots for, okay? And then just a minute later, I get that. Which one's the more genuine expression? Right? Do you see the prostate exam now? It's like, okay, now that you see a real smile from him, you're like, okay, that's not good, okay? This right here is what separates the best photographers from okay photographers. I can teach anybody to do the technical crap. This is not hard. Teaching somebody how to interact with human beings and get genuine expression out of them is much more difficult. Okay? Who feels comfortable with that? You seem more outgoing and bubbly. You're pretty outgoing. You came and talked to me right off the bat. I'm not very outgoing, believe it or not. I like teaching a lot. That's why I can talk in front of people. But I'm not. If there's a big party going on at my house, I'm gonna go to my bedroom. I don't want to deal with people. if you genuinely care about them and ask them questions, they're going to start talking about themselves and they're going to open up, right? Just like when the class started and I was like asking you guys questions and everybody was like, "It's on my phone, don't look at me." Okay, you guys are opening up a little bit. You're still pretty closed off, but you guys are a little bit more comfortable like asking questions and chiming up, right? We're getting to know each other. The secret is doing that quickly, okay? And one of the quickest ways to break the ice is being funny. Now, if you're not actually funny, don't try to be funny because it's kind of awkward, okay? And by kind of, I mean really awkward, okay? But there's other ways you can kind of break the ice, okay? One of the things also goes back to like this picture on the left. You guys are smart. Don't take a bad picture. I knew that was a bad picture when I was taking it. I took it anyways because I also knew I was teaching this class and I needed it, okay? I didn't give that to the customer. I took it, and then right after I got him to genuinely smile and whatever. How do you think I got him genuinely to smile?
You, like you said, get to know them or tell a joke.
Probably when you told me that was a very bad picture.
Exactly. That's what I did with him, okay? He's an older dude. He's got thicker skin. If I tried telling him like a lame dad joke, it's probably going to be awkward. It was just the two of us. Like, it's kind of weird. He could be my dad, maybe.
By being genuine yourself?
Yeah. And you know what I did? I pulled down my camera. I was like, dude, that's a bad picture. You look like a serial killer. And then he started laughing. He's like, I know, I have a fake smile. I was like, that's cool, dude, but just relax. I don't want the fake smile. I just want you to like, no serial killer vibes, okay? And then immediately took the picture, okay? It's just genuine interaction with him. I wasn't being like, hey, smile. I don't, there's like 3 levels of getting expression out of people. The first level is just taking pictures of people. The second level is like telling people to smile. That third, deeper level is more, it's harder to get to and you don't always know what you're gonna get. I could have been like, hey, no serial killer vibes, and he could have given me like more of a serious look, like, what are you talking about? But it's genuine, and I don't really care. I'm there for genuine pictures, and I would have taken that. And so I'm genuinely interacting with people and getting them to smile, okay? I've built some repertoire with Olivia now, and she's already laughing at me because I'm an idiot. And I was like, you're not girly. She's like, actually, I kind of am, you idiot. And then I was like, oh, well, at least you're not one of those dancer girls. And she's like, actually, I kind of am, you idiot. See? But it's just stuff like that. Like, she's going to smile when I talk about that and just talking about this relationship we built in the last 45 minutes, okay? She's also a model, and she knows how to smile and pose, right? Turn your head to the left just a little bit. Shoulders that way. Come on, dude. You know, we just went over this. Bend your right knee. Yeah. See, look at that. I just got a real smile. Like, I'm not ready to go. See, that's all you need to do to get, dude, you like turned it off like super quick. Turn your head. No, not that smile. I want a real one. Relax your shoulders for me. Okay, don't look like you want to murder me though. There we go. Turn your head that way, just touch. Notice I'm also talking the whole time, okay? I'm keeping that up. One thing that's really weird, who wants to talk to me when I'm like this? So, I like teaching workshops. My name's Kenny. I'm awkward and I crack inappropriate jokes. This is weird, right? You can't connect with the camera. You connect with human faces, okay? The problem with that is you can see your client through the camera, so you think you're connecting with them because you can see them, but they can't see you. The only time this camera comes up is when I'm taking a picture. I want the connection. Oh, she's smiling. Blam, blam, picture. I'm going to bring it down. Keep talking. Keep the connection going, okay? And it's kind of hard to work through that sometimes, and it takes a lot of practice to get comfortable joking and talking with people. Who feels comfortable with that? Great. Fantastic. You guys are on the path to being landscape photographers. You don't have to interact with people though, right? I'm not disparaging your work. I'm just saying you don't have to talk to people. Look, I could take a great picture of her right now. Okay. That's all I really have, but I purposely left this much time because I want to talk to you guys and if you guys want to get up and come and shoot or use the light or ask about different modifiers, or if you have any questions, or yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about general settings in your camera?
Uh-huh.
Like some basics, what you're using with flash usually.
Yeah. Let me turn on my screen sharing on my phone so you can see. So she just asked like general settings on my phone. Look at that, my second light wasn't going off. I'm an idiot. It turned off. You were supposed to fix that, bro. I'm just kidding. So the first type is I want to kill all the ambient light, have my flash take over everything. So right now, I want to take a picture that's pretty much black. Like that. Let's see if I can get my camera settings to show up. You can see them in the top left. ISO 100, 160th of a second, and f8. Okay. Now, this is a 50 millimeter 1.2 lens. This is my bread and butter. This is pretty much what I shoot everything with. I love the depth and separation it gives. If I'm using flash though, that's how I'm creating my depth and dimension, is through the flash. I don't really need to be shooting at 1.2. I can, don't need to. If you get into the headshot world, they're very strict believers that like their ears must be in focus when you take a headshot and other crap. I don't care. I do what I want. Because guess what? This is photography. We all do whatever. But that's kind of where I'm at here. Now, one interesting thing that we can talk about, because we've got some time. Who here has heard the term high-speed sync? What does it mean?
Certain flashes, like older flashes, you can't do it.
Yep.
If you have too fast of a flash, your camera's shuttered. It'll just give you a bar in the middle of your shot.
Why? Do you know why that bar comes?
The speed of your shutter.
Yeah. Oh no. What's the Wi-Fi? What? And that's a cut?
Ampersand.
Well, now I have to wait 14 minutes for telling me that it's the wrong password. Actually, I might just be able to do it on my phone. Last time I tried doing this, it never loaded. Let's do this.
The high-speed sync gives you a burst of light, or multiple bursts, catch different bursts in the shutter?
That's what I used to think until I did more research. That's actually not what happens. I will show you what happens, maybe. And that's a cut. So what happens when your shutter speed actually goes above like 200, 250th of a second is your shutter is not actually opening and closing any faster. What happens is your shutter is actually scanning your sensor. So it goes like that and scans the sensor, right? The faster your shutter speed, the smaller that gap is. So at 1,000th of a second, it's like that. And at 8,000ths of a second, it's like that. And it's just a smaller opening that's scanning your sensor, okay? That's what also causes the phenomenon called rolling shutter distortion. Have you guys ever heard that term? So that just means by the time it scanned the image, whatever's on the bottom of the frame has moved. So if you ever take a photograph out of a car window while you're driving of a light pole, it's gonna be slanted at a 45-degree angle. Because it started scanning, that light pole was there, but as you drove, it scanned down here. And that's why it's angled like that. It's rolling shutter distortion. Now, the same thing happens when you use a flash. We're gonna pause it in just a second. So the top left is an 8,000th of a second, the bottom right is a 1,000th of a second. Da, 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 da. Blammo, pause, okay? This is how mirrorless cameras work, DSLRs, anything. If it's an electronic shutter, it's just only scanning a certain amount, okay? Now, when your flash goes off, your flash is really fast, okay? Your flash is only present for the very top of that photograph, and then it's not present for anything below that. So you get a line where your flash was in the picture, and then it's not there for the rest of the picture, right? So in order to bypass that, what they've done with high-speed sync is it increases your flash duration. So your flash is kind of longer, and it's there for the whole time that your sensor is being scanned, okay? That's really awesome. Gives you some great benefits, especially if I'm trying to shoot outdoors at 1.2. If I'm shooting outdoors at 2 p.m. in the afternoon at 1.2 on my f-stop, what's my shutter speed gonna be? Like 8,000, right? Without high-speed sync, I wouldn't be able to take a photograph. Okay? With high-speed sync, I can. There are 3 really big negatives with high-speed sync. Any guesses what they are? I love uncomfortable silences. No. Nope.
Depth of field.
Nope. Okay. I like making you guys think and rack your brain, okay? The first thing is you lose a ton of flash power. Okay? Because your flash has to be on for longer, it's expending a lot of that power to extend its flash duration, so you don't get the same power output. A level 10 on this flash at 8,000th of a second is not even close to the same power of a level 10 not using high-speed sync. Okay? So you lose a ton of flash power. That's the biggest negative. Now that you know a little bit more, any guesses on the other negatives?
Is it steady the whole way through?
Mm-hmm. It is, especially the nice flash. The other negative is you have a much longer recycle time. Okay, recycle time is the time it takes between when you can use your flash again. So when you're using high-speed sync, your recycle time increases, which sucks if you're photographing something moving quickly or you need to be able to shoot faster. The third thing is it freaking destroys your battery. Okay, if you're using a battery-powered flash, it is going to suck the life out of your battery using high-speed sync. So high-speed sync is nice. It unlocks a lot of features, but there are some negatives just to be conscious with, okay? So going back to the original question that led us down this sweet path was, what are my camera settings? Well, in here, I wanted to kill all the ambient light, and rather than increasing my shutter speed to kill the ambient light, I wanted to avoid the high-speed sync drawbacks, and so I increased my f-stop rather than my shutter speed. I'm shooting with a plain white background. There's no depth of field in here anyways. So I don't need to be at a low f-stop. I'd rather increase my f-stop to kill the ambient light, okay? Now, the other way that you can use a flash, and this is my favorite way because who here loves life touch photography? No? Jerks. Just kidding. Who here had their senior photos or school photos taken by Life Touch or someone similar? Did they turn out good? Do they look super dated? Why? Because it's obvious they're using a flash, right? Okay. My goal with a lot of photography, if you did any stalking, like any good students should have done with whoever's teaching their class to make sure that he even knows what the heck he's doing. I use a flash in a lot of my pictures, but I don't want anybody to know I'm using a flash. I don't want anybody, I hate when somebody looks at my photograph and goes, oh, that was a flash. Okay, that's not what I want, generally speaking. So, my favorite way to use flash is blending it with the ambient light, but just making my flash my main light source. Okay? So, I can do that in this room. I'm actually going to have you stand right here, Olivia, facing this way, so I have a background to work with. I'm going to turn off my kicker light. I'm not going to worry about it right now because we know how to use it and what it does. Any guesses on how to do this? Good. I didn't want any guesses. Okay. The first step, so if you remember, what was my first step if I was trying to kill the ambient lighting?
Change to your f-stop.
Yeah, and I want to take a photo without my flash on and have it be completely black, right? I want to know there's no light pollution. With this, what I want to do is turn off my transmitter and take a photo that's underexposed. Their face is underexposed by 0.3 of a stop. The camera works in third stops. That's why 0.3, 0.7 of a stop, okay? So I'm going to do that now. I am going to drop my f-stop to 1.2. Turn towards me. And let's increase my ISO until like there. That's good. Maybe darken it just a touch. Look, she's learning. She's like, I need my nose towards that. I don't want that big nose picture up there again, okay? So that's underexposed, right? Now I'm going to add in my flash. I do want you to face away from my light though, Olivia.
Away?
Oh, yes. So feet, hips, shoulders towards me. Bend that left knee. Perfect. Turn your head this way. There we go. And from here, it's the same steps, okay? I'm going to turn on my transmitter. I'm going to turn on my auto or TTL metering. Turn your head to the left. A little bit more. Right there. I'm going to come in and meter just her face. That looks pretty good. Okay, turn your head to the left a little bit. Let's go back. So there's before the metering. There's with the flash. It's not that bright on the actual photograph. The projectors have a hard time with whites, okay? So there's that. I'm going to take one. Why are you doing that? Oh, okay. Turn your head to the left a little bit. Turn just your nose. There we go, right there. Okay, stay there. I'm going to turn this off. And I'm going to expose it properly. Turn your head to the left a little bit. Okay. So there's no flash properly exposed. Bad picture. Very flat lighting. No dimension, no depth. Bad. And it's not because of you. You look great. And there's with the flash. But nobody's ever going to really know that was a flash, right? It's not in your face that that was a flash.
But you can tell by the lights in her pupils.
Well, yeah, you're a photographer. What's that light called? Who knows?
Catch light.
Bingo, catch light, okay? Catch lights are very important in photography. If people don't have them, they look like sharks. They look dead. Make sure you have catch lights. Catch lights are also a very big indicator of where your main light source was and what kind of lighting they were using. Anytime you walk by magazines, start looking at the reflections of the catch lights and you can tell what kind of lighting they were using. Yes, you can see the catch lights and most people are like, oh, that's flash, but it's not the same as if I were to do this. Uh-oh. Turn your head to the left a little bit. All right, and black out the background. That's very obvious I'm using a flash. That's not. Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah? Everybody trying? Who's going to go home and buy a flash after this class? That's a good question. So right now I'm using Pro Photo flashes. Don't buy Pro Photos, okay? I love them if you're using a flash all the time, every day, 100% worth it. If you're not, they're very expensive, okay? There are a few other brands out there. Godox and Flashpoint are one brand. I highly, highly do not recommend them. It's not that they're bad flashes, but they tend to break. They don't have customer service department. If your flash breaks, you buy a new one. That's just how it is. On top of the fact, they're kind of complicated. Who here loves fractions? Nobody, okay? All of the power on those flashes is fraction-based. It's confusing, it's a pain in the butt, okay? The one I would recommend if you're not going to buy Profoto is Westcott. Okay, Westcott is a US-based company. They actually work with Profoto a lot. Their power is all 1 to 10. They have the same TTL features. They're battery powered. They're amazing. You can get a really nice on-camera flash that can be used off-camera. It's the FJ80 Mark II. It's like $330. Or they have a FJ400, which this leads me to a thing in a second. That's like one of their more powerful flashes, like $600. Battery powered. It's just as powerful as this guy is. Okay, that flash is $2,000. So Westcott's amazing. Pictureline has all of them. Highly recommend going to Pictureline. They'll get you set up. Their customer service is amazing. They'll teach you how to use them. Flashes are all rated in watt seconds. I'm not even convinced anybody knows what that means. They use it to measure the power of a light. This flash is a 500 watt second flash. They have 250 watt second flashes. They have 100 watt second flashes, okay? They have 1,000 watt second flashes. Now, this is where a lot of people get tripped up. From 250 watt seconds to 500 watt seconds is not, how do I say this? If you are one of the technical nerds out there like me, don't yell at me for this. It's not double the power, okay? From 250 to 500, even though it kind of technically is, but it's one stop of light difference, that's all. From 250 watt seconds to 500 is one stop of light, okay? So if you take your ISO from 100 to 200, now that 250 watt second light is going to be the same amount of power as a 500 watt second flash, okay? So don't feel like you need to spend all this extra money. Westcott just came out with an FJ800. It's $400 more than the FJ400. It's one stop of light. 9 times out of 10, you don't need that, okay? So don't feel like you have to spend the extra money to get the most powerful flash that's on the market. It's not necessarily needed.
So for the studio portraiture, how much is enough?
400 to 500 is where you're probably going to want to be. Now, we have some extra time, so I'm going to ask you guys a trick question. Now you guys know it's a trick question. Let's say Olivia was a dancer, because clearly she's not. And I wanted to do a photograph of her doing a leap, a dance leap. What should my camera settings be? And I'm using these strobes.
High shutter speed.
Wrong. Okay? Now, it's counterintuitive, but that is wrong, okay? If we backtrack a little bit, when I'm using studio flashes, that first photograph I take, what's it look like? Black, okay? Which means there's no light hitting my camera sensor, okay? Now, when you buy a flash, you can look at the flashes. Every flash has a flash duration, how long that flash is being seen by your camera, okay? Profoto flashes, very expensive, very fast flash duration. These guys have a flash duration around, depending on the power, around 16,000th of a second. Very quickly, right? Olivia is not bioluminescent. I've been watching a ton of Moana with my 2-year-old. She's not like that crab on Moana. She's not giving off any light, okay? So the only time my camera is going to see her is when my flash goes off. That's it. Now, what's faster, 8,000th of a second from my camera or 16,000th of a second from my flash? 16,000th of a second. So if I'm trying to freeze motion in studio, I'm going to shoot at 200th of a second and whatever f-stop, and then let my flash freeze the motion. Okay? Because even if I shot for a second, shutter opens, she's not giving off any light. The only time my camera's seeing her is when my flash hits her. If I have a flash duration of 16,000th of a second, shuts, frozen. You guys want me to show you? I'm not going to make you leap, by the way. Can we dim these lights all the way down? I'll turn on the modeling light so it's not spooky. Thank you. So I'm going to set, oh, it's got to connect. So I'm going to set every camera has a native sync speed that it's not triggering high-speed sync. This particular camera, it's 200. Most cameras are anywhere from 160th to 200 to 250. There's some outliers out there, and I'm not going to worry talking about them. So I'm going to set my f-stop to f8, and just for kicks and giggles, I'm going to set my shutter speed to 1/3 of a second. I'm going to turn off my modeling light, take a photograph. No, I'm not, because I can't focus. Anyways, this is what I'm getting at 1/3 of a second. Black, right? I'm going to turn on my modeling light, turn on my transmitter, do my auto metering. Turn your head to the left a little bit. There we go. Okay, I want you to just put your hand up and wave. Not so fast. There we go. You guys hear how slow my shutter speed was, right? It was 1/3 of a second. It's freezing her hand, though. Okay? Because the only time that she's being seen is when my flash is hitting her. So if you're trying to freeze motion in studio, you actually don't want to use a high shutter speed, because when that shutter speed goes up, the flash duration goes down because it needs to be out there longer for that whole exposure. Can we turn the lights back on, please? You look like you're about to slap me in that photo. Sorry, you're a dancer. We get it. There's something else I was going to mention. I forgot what it was. Do you guys have any questions with this other random crap that was not on the docket, but we ended up talking about? No? Okay. Am I supposed to do something fancy now? Great. Hell no. No. Pictureline does rent out, and actually Brent, don't rent from Pictureline, rent from BW and Cutthroat. They rent these flashes out, you guys. If you ever want to just screw around with the lights and flashes, rent them out. Take them home. In fact, that's a lot cheaper than buying them if you're only going to use them sparingly, okay? So there's lots of ways that you can mess around with the lighting and stuff like that if you want to not buy them. You guys have any other random gear questions? Anything? I worked at the camera store for 4 years. You guys are just full.
The reflectors, those.
The modifiers? They range in size, in style. I mean, soft boxes are going to be the go-to. If I had to buy one soft box to do everything, it's going to be this one. It's a Raja 120 centimeters, roughly 4 feet. I might do a 3 foot just because I can use it indoors without it being clunky in the way, but that size can do most things. I can do headshots with it, product photography with it. I can do a full body with it, all that stuff. Okay. One challenge I want to give you guys is, now knowing direction of light, go home and take a portrait of somebody with a window. Okay. If this section of the table was the window, actually, I'm just going to say this is a window. Most people will, like, if you were taking the photograph of me, most people have them stand right next to the window. And that's not good, right? If we remember our plungers, I want that light there. So if they take a step back, now that window is hitting their face. And that's actually how you properly use a window to take photograph. But window, turn their nose towards that light source, shoot into the shadow side of their face. Okay. All of the lighting stuff that was talked about tonight, the direction of light, shaping light, that all applies with natural lighting, flash lighting, video lighting. The video interns, I'm sure you guys know about short lighting and all that. Did you learn anything today? Great. Yeah, everybody seems like it. You guys need some caffeine. We just like hang out now, right? You guys want to see the studio, have questions?
Yeah, of course.
They got a pool table upstairs.
Thank you.
No, thank you.
Yeah.